Yesterday it was 65 degrees, sunny. Today it is 25 degrees, snowing. There's estimating winds of up to 40 miles per hour throughout the night. We're going to take a look at how do we set up a camp in this environment and these conditions. What is up, fellow bushcrafters? I got thinking today because I was getting ready to leave the house and I thought, this is such messed up weather. I know I keep saying how messed up this weather is. It is literally absolutely crazy. So let's look from start to finish how I would set a camp up in this environment with these temperatures with super minimal gear. All I have with me is my axe and a small Frost River backpack that I have a wool blanket, a fire starting kit, a water bottle, and a tarp. With that, in this environment, very easy, we can set up camp for the night. We might be a little bit cold, might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's gonna still be a good experience at the end of the day, so let's get started. I do think it's hard in an environment like we are in right now to really say that one survival need is trumped over the other, meaning shelter or fire, what's more important. You would have to evaluate that. An hour ago, it was snowing, a very wet snow here, so I would say shelter was a little bit more imperative. Right now, the temperature is dropped, the snow is cut back. I would say fire might be just a tad more imperative. So you got to work with them side by side, and they intermingle and twist and turn, all that weird stuff. So I don't think one is more important than the other. We got to get both done. When I decide I'm going to actually stop and pick a campsite, if I don't already have a designated area, what I want to do is first look around and feel how the wind is blowing and see what type of trees are around. And I'm saying that because there's several different factors that are included with that. The wind is detrimental in the wintertime. Year-round it can be, but wintertime with very heavy winds, that cold air pushing through at night can really be detrimental to your health. So I am starting to decide where the wind's coming from. I know it's coming from my back into my back right now. So I want the tarp that I'm going to set up to take the brunt of that wind. But with that too, I'm also looking, there's a lot of pine around here and a lot of hemlock through here. So that's going to act as a buffer that's natural and take more stress off of my shelter, but I still want my shelter set up in the correct direction. Once that is identified of what way I'm going to set up my shelter, I want to not only look up for widowmakers, that's dead branches and dead trees in the area, but I also want to look down. And I think that's something that we overlook a lot, because if the base of the tree is starting to rot or we see rot at the base of the tree, move out. So this area looks good. I went through that very quick rundown in my head of what's happening and do I have a place to set up my shelter? I do, between these two trees. Next thing that I want to identify is there wood in the area? And there is. There's a lot of pine, there's a lot of dead standing back in this direction, enough out of camp, but it's small enough that I can chop it down with my axe. And then I want to identify what am I going to be able to use specifically in these weather conditions to get myself up off the ground if I don't have anything else. And in my case, I don't. I only have a small backpack with minimal gear. I'm going to need to build a debris bed. And to do that in these conditions, I really have to look at some type of evergreen, so hemlock branches or white pine, anything that I can get my hands on to build that bed to separate myself from the ground, because we don't want the ground sucking any heat out of our system, and we also don't want to lay on this ground because this snow is the wet kind of snow. So you do this for 2 seconds, my glove's already wet, it's just not a good situation. So let's start to boom, 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 hit all those things in order, and we will have a camp set up in no time. With my shelter up in this situation now, I'm going to go out and start to collect firewood. I don't have my debris bed built yet, so laying down wouldn't be an option, but if the storm starts to pick up, at least my firewood supply is ready. I can always sit on top of either my haversack or my backpack. I also have a wool blanket in here, so if I had to just sit down on the ground, I have something to insulate me and keep a fire in front of me, so that's the next important thing in my mind. At this point, tinder kindling fuel has been collected. A good rule of thumb is when you think you have enough, double that amount, and then you'll be good in any type of wintertime environment. When we have any type of lean-to configuration, we want about 1 step, so 3 to 4 feet away from that shelter to get good heat and not be too close that we either smoke ourselves out if the wind changes direction or melt or burn our shelter itself. So stand up, one nice big step, and there we have our location for our fire. Then you need to decide how you're going to start your fire. In my situation right now, I have a ferro rod, I have a flint and steel kit, I have a lighter, but I don't have anything to use those things with. So this is where all of those individual skills that we talk about all the time come into play. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna get that fire started? What I'm doing now is creating a large batch of shavings from some wood that I found around camp. I know I'm gonna need this tinder source in order to get the fire going. Again, we're using the lighter. We're taking this as an emergency type scenario. This progression worked out absolutely perfect for us. We started with our shelter, then we got our fire. I have a nice pile of firewood off to the side. Now I need to think about my sleeping arrangements. I do have a wool blanket with me, but laying on top of this snow or laying right on wet leaves is not going to work at all. I have no barrier between me and that, so we need to build some type of debris bed. Lucky for us, ton of hemlock around, and we're going to use that. There is some white pine, which will work also, but that's a little bit further off in the distance, so we're going to just use this hemlock. When you make any type of the debris bed, what you want to remember is that you want compressed 4 to 6 inches to be comfortable. The reason we're going to go with the hemlock boughs rather than anything else here is because there's really nothing else here that is a viable option. You can use leaves during the fall if they're dry. You can use hays and grasses, different things like that, but we just don't have anything around like that. So let's look at how we actually process and collect boughs to create this bed that we can sleep on. There's still going to be frozen ice on these boughs, as you can see right there, but we're going to have to deal with that. It is what it is. What you don't want to do is you don't have to collect all the way back on the large branches. You really want to get these ends in this area, because after this on the tree branch, after this segue, there's not much. It's just branch, and you don't want to have to lay in them branches anyway. So if you go back to right where the main branch starts, break it off there and collect the pine boughs, or in this case hemlock boughs, this way, that's what's going to give us our mattress to sleep on tonight. This is the way the branch was on the tree. If you flip it this way, you can see that natural curvature that it's going to hang down, because it naturally is like this. So if you turn it, see how it flops down? That works so much better for building any kind of debris bed. Now I'm not only going to put one in here at a time, I'm going to grab a good quantity of these. And start to lay them in there. Our bed is complete. As I said earlier, I'm going to get some moisture off of that. There's nothing you're going to do in this condition because it's wet, it's cold, everything has ice on it. You just have to deal with it. This is way better than sleeping on the ground. What I do have is my water bottle. I have about a half a water bottle in here. I don't worry too much right now about a local water source. There's snow everywhere. I can melt snow in this and deal with it. So I'm going to put this here just to start to warm that up just a little bit. And I'm going to pull out my wool blanket. I could set this inside. And then I have my sleeping quarters ready to go. So that is setting up camp in a winter condition. It's not that difficult of a process. It's really just thinking about the order you want to start, how you want to set up camp, what are your priorities, and then using all those tools that we talk about in all them individual videos and compounding them to make life better. So as things go wrong or things don't work, another tool out of the toolbox. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, because I thought this is really maybe going to help start tying things in to all those little segments that I teach all the time. The more you know, the better you're going to be out here. This was Dan Welbeck with Coalcracker Bushcraft. If you like this, click the button below and subscribe. If you haven't already, go over to coalcrackerbushcraft.com and check out all our classes and merchandise. And until the next video, stay in the woods.